He does 16 tournaments and he missed 14 cuts. Made a total of $18,000 for the entire year. And you know what he does next year? He's back on the Korn Ferry back to Q school. Okay. And I did the math on his travel for the PGA Tour. He spent minimum 125 grand. Okay. So with those 2 years combined, this dude lost $50,000 to $70,000. Okay. And he's back in Q school, first stage, like it's like he never left. All right, boys and girls, welcome to Looper Talk. My name is Tim Palmer. Today, our guest is Quinn Riley. And I'm very stoked to have our conversation because we are both from North Carolina. So there's going to be a lot of home bases maybe we'll cover. But before I get into the conversation with Quinn, I have a few things to go over. One is the country club. It's an online country club, as you all know. If you don't have access to one, but you want the connections that a country club provides, whether it's golf, business, etc., the country club is the way to go. As usual, I will have the link in the description if you're interested in joining. It's not too much. It's pretty cool because you get to speak to a few guys that own 8-figure companies. There's probably 5 or 6 pro golfers in there, a couple of Korn Ferry players and stuff. It's really cool. So if you're ever interested in joining, the link is in the description below. Secondly is, of course, as you all know, I created an app. It's called the Verified Caddy Network. It's an app that promotes caddies and hopes to better their careers and to get in touch with people like Quinn if he ever needed a caddy locally and he wanted somebody that was worth a shit. He could use this network. And again, this network promotes their resumes, reviews, their experience. It ranks the caddies according to course, state, and national ranking. And you can contact them directly. And for players, it is free. So you can access that network whenever you like. The app is on the Apple Store, and we are also currently working on getting it into Android, the Google Play, which I need some testers for that. So yeah, Verified Caddy Network, the country club are my two main gigs. Today we have Quinn Riley. Yes, right on. So Quinn is a very accomplished golfer, played at Duke for 4 years. Before that, you were top 40 ranked junior in North Carolina, or no, in the nation. Excuse me.
In the nation,
yeah. So very well established there. And as he will tell you, growing up playing junior golf in North Carolina is no joke. You get some really good sticks, and it's about a year-round situation. So the players you're playing with are always up to date. And I grew up playing a lot of junior golf in Pinehurst. And yeah, when we'd come down from the mountain range down to East Carolina, I would get my ass whooped quite a bit. So it is no joke. Well, he turned pro in 2022, played in 3 PGA Tour events, John Deere Classic, Shriners, and the Wells Fargo, which that had to be cool because that was at Quail Hollow. So that was a little back to home feel there. That must have been really cool. That golf course is hard as shit. You had a Korn Ferry tournament, I think, and you also played some Asian Tour events. And then as of currently, you are in the Grass League for, what's the team? Michigan? Yeah, the Michigan Auto Aces, right? There we go. There we go. And I'm not familiar with Grass League, so I want to, we'll get into that lately. But yeah, it's awesome to have you on my show. I think coming from Duke University, obviously you have quite a bit of intelligence outside of golf. So that will be interesting to hear your perspective on stuff, because I think you not only coming at it from a golfer standpoint, but you also have the intelligence to see different perspectives and to be more well-rounded with your opinions. And I think that's super important for what I preach on. And so I guess my first question is, throughout your journey, what is something that you wish things would improve on? Or maybe if you had to do it a little bit differently, what exactly would you change?
I wouldn't change much about like what I did with what was given to me. I think I pride myself on making a lot of the right decisions or what I feel are smart decisions just with like situational stuff. But there's just certain places you probably shouldn't have played if you're in my shoes, and then things you should have seen a little sooner, which I did see and I took action. So certain tours I just don't want to play for. Mostly mini tour golf doesn't really make sense to me anymore. But like I don't count Grass League as one of those. It's just like a really cool something new that I think golf needs, and that's kind of why I want to be a part of it. But I mean, things that I wish would change, I wish there was more brands that want to get in and be a part of like up and coming players' stories.
Mhm.
And I wish there was a lot more merit based kind of support for players that have really accomplished a lot. So there's guys that have been out there grinding for 10 years and they've Mondayed into, I don't know, tons of Korn Ferry events, PGA Tour events. But I see them at first stage at Q School every year, and it's like we're in the same spot come October. So it doesn't really matter how hot of a year, how many mini tour events you won, how many PGA section things you won, you're going to be at first stage unless you somehow Mondayed in and then got the ball rolling and accumulated enough points to get a Korn Ferry card that way, which is extremely difficult to do. But yeah, I wish there was kind of like amateur golf and junior golf. There's always something that to measure yourself against, like with ranking, national rankings.
Right.
And the biggest jump from amateur golf to professional golf is that you can play in a lot of events that aren't world ranked, so you don't get points for that. And so there's no way to track kind of your progress or where you've been playing at year in, year out if you're not on tour. So that's kind of just like you get lost in the mix.
And which I totally agree with, because if the key for professional golfers for me is to have the runway accessible enough to where you have these opportunities. And like you said, even the people that have done well with these opportunities, they still somehow end up in the same spot as everybody else. And that's a very interesting concept, because you're basically saying, okay, even merit based, where golf to me, the core of it's always been based on a meritocracy. But now there's another element to it where I think there's a financial burden. And with mini tours, what I noticed, because I played on the Carolinas Mountain Tour and I did some Swing Thought Tour stuff for a while. And like you said, unless you're winning those things, you're not going to make a lot of money in the modern mini tour golf world. And so to get into these Mondays and or even the pre-qualifiers on Thursday, you're going to be traveling quite a bit. And so therefore you need this access to be able to afford that runway to where you can give yourself these multiple chances. And like you said, even the people that get these multiple chances, if they don't perform right then and there, it's almost there's a stopping point where it's okay, I didn't do well. I had my 4 or 5 chances. I'm a good enough player. I missed it by one. I missed it by two. But now here I'm back spending my 3 or 4 grand for Q school. And I wish, maybe to me at least, I've always thought, well, man, there's got to be a way to allow this accessibility to be broader and to make like baseball to me is would be a very comparable subject, because you have single A ball, you have double A ball, you have triple A ball, and there's a progression there. And in golf, there's really not this progression. It's much more, okay, what can you afford? Okay, here you go. And then if you happen to do well, great. But if you don't, there's no, okay, you paid for this, you're going to have this adequate runway. Now it's much more on you failed. Okay, well, we need more money from you, and then you can get back the same opportunities. And that kind of sucks, because like you said, you get deflated, because maybe the one week you are hot, it's at a mini tour event, and then all of a sudden, okay, you make some money that way, but then say the swing gets cold for a couple weeks, and those were some big tournaments that you could have done well in. You go back to the drawing board, figure things out, and then all of a sudden now you're back at square one because, again, that runway diminishes really fast. And so I agree with you, man. I think it's almost the merit-based conversation nowadays doesn't seem to be. I just made a post about Brad Dahlke, and I think he's a great player. Obviously, he is. He does very well. I mean, he was second at the USAM. He's a good player, but I mean, you have guys like Doc Redman, All-Star Daughtry, who won on the Korn Ferry Tour, and yet they're not even giving that exemption out to them. They're giving that exemption out to Dahlke, and I would assume it's because of his advertisement skills and the people he can bring. Because Rocket Mortgage is done sponsoring that tournament after this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're done. And so obviously I don't know the information. I can just assume and make opinions. But I feel for the guys like you, and my dad and I were talking about this the other day, a guy like you that has the resume you have, to me, I don't see why it would be so hard for you to get these opportunities. I mean, you played at an ACC school, you won a college tournament, and that to me is you're not going to get. Sure, there's players that are going to win multiple events, whatever, but the capacity you have is there for me at least. And the fact that I think what it boils down to, at least in my opinion, is golf is becoming so expensive to go down these roads, which is why I'm very interested in Grass League. I think that's a really cool opportunity for guys like you, obviously. But the sponsorship opportunities and these guys that are willing to pay out, it's becoming so expensive that it's just hard to get that money available for somebody to give them that adequate runway to say, hey, here's your legit chance. You don't have to work all year. Let's get you into these tournaments. Everything's paid for. And you can really spend some time getting your game sharp and getting these opportunities. And it just sucks because I feel that we invest more money into players that are currently hot than creating a development program to produce good players down the road.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I mean, to your point, like Q School first stage, I just signed up probably a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And for first stage, it's actually $5,500. That's if you're exempt into first stage. If you're not, you start in pre-qualifying, which is $3,000. And then if you get through that, that's another $3,000. And then you're all in.
Okay.
So it's $6,000 total for just a random guy that wants to do PGA Tour.
And that's just entry fee. We're not talking obviously expenses and all that crap. That's just straight entry fee.
Yeah. And if you don't, like, say you don't find that, say you're a player like me who gets first stage entry, you got to find that money early enough in the sign up window to get your preference. So, like, there's one site in North Carolina for first stage, and like, I probably just barely hit the cutoff to like get that as my first choice. I've had years where I signed up too late and then I got my 13th choice in like Muskogee, Oklahoma. And then the cost of first stage goes way up because you're having to buy flights and rental cars and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know about you. I just got done at a sectional event up in Spokane, and a hotel for me for 5 days was $1,600. I stayed at a Hyatt in Idaho. I mean,
Well, they sort of know like something's coming to town in advance, so that's why the rates get like that, and then it gets overbooked.
100%, which makes sense. Yeah, I feel for people. I really do feel for guys like you because I hear it all the time. We have guys in my shack at Bandon that try all the time, and we run into the same problems that we're currently talking about. And to me, it's just hard because there's a lot of these international players, like you said, they have these federations that are backing them. And so that's what's giving them their opportunities. But for an American golfer like yourself, you are responsible for all that backing. And that's tough because if, say, you don't have sponsors or you don't know somebody who's willing to help you out, well, you're going to have to go to work. Well, if you go to work, guess what you're not doing? You're not working on that game. And if you ain't working on that game, how can we expect you to develop, man? We can't. You can't expect somebody, and you know as well as I know, golfing is 5 days a week. That might be a minimum. I would say 6 maybe. I mean, you got to have one day off to give the brain a break, but I mean, shit, for a good, solid professional golfer who is touring and trying to make a legit living at it, you can't do less than 5 days a week. You have to. And whether it's small practice throughout the week or whatnot, man, it's just not going to happen because 68 doesn't do it anymore. It used to, but as you know, 68 ain't doing it. You got to be, what, somewhere between 62 to 66 to even be in the conversation nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I've had funding before, so like when I turned pro, came out of college, my resume was really tight. My name was kind of hot in the mix of college golf, not the biggest name, but I did have funding and it's great. So it frees you up to go and take on the world is your oyster. You can go, say if you want to go do DP World Tour, Q School and Korn Ferry in the same year, like that's a crazy schedule for the fall, but you can go and do it as long as you have the funds and resources to go take on all that. But when you have that, there's a pressure, and most people can't. Like I can tell you because I've had those massive contracts before where you have to submit your playing schedule, so you have to show that you're applying yourself in whatever opportunities you're going to go chase with that money that they're giving you. And there's a pressure in the chase or the pursuit of getting better. You're going to have to experiment a little bit, and that's risky at that level because that could set you back. And just having to relearn something in your swing or going over putting stuff or revamping some part of your game. There's a lot more pressure added when you do have sponsors too. So it's like a double-edged sword, but the worst part I would say is when you reach the end of that window and don't accomplish anything that they were betting on you doing. And that's kind of what I just went through last year is club manufacturers, they're just trying to pick the cream of the crop, and especially the younger guys now. So they're more focused on people coming out of college than guys who have been around the block and experienced kind of what it is to be a pro or play in big events.
Yeah.
And so guys like me, you almost feel old, even though at the time I was 25, now I'm 26. I feel like going through the whole contracts and sponsorships and stuff makes you feel like you're washed up. But the average PGA Tour rookie is in their 30s. So, and then PGA Tour Americas, I think when we went over the meeting, the players meeting, it was like 31 was the average rookie on that tour. So you're 26 and you feel washed up, and it's like you're watching all these young kids win PGA Tour events, getting these starts left and right, being hot out of college, and then signing with all these big companies. And I mean, that was me to a certain extent, but like feeling washed up at 26 is not a good feeling, especially when you can still do it. Like I still see myself being out there.
That is such a unique perspective because I never would have even thought of that. That's the first thing I thought of when you started explaining it. It makes total sense. It's this, I don't want to say you're a zoo animal, but to me it compares to when you're at a zoo and you see a brand new, we'll say a leopard for all we know, right? And then that leopard's getting all this attention for 2 years, and then all of a sudden a brand new leopard shows up, and you're not even that old, but yet you're not getting nearly as much attention because this whatever new guy's showing up, and they got hopes for them, and then you're having to sit there and swallow that on top of continuing on because for those who don't know, playing tournament golf, this is why golfers get mad. And I'm not talking like angry mad. I'm talking mentally to a point where we feel like a rotten orange that's just been beat to shit because your brain is Swiss cheese. You have to constantly be on it on practice rounds, swing changes, putting coaches here, this or that, and then you got to worry about the finances. And so it is a constant battle mentally to stay sharp. You need your 8, 9 hours of sleep. You can't go party, and I think that's the easy part is not partying, trying to stay in realm, start staying somewhat disciplined there, even though maybe once or twice a month you let the tiger out of the cage. But at that rate, like you said, it is very much in this day and age, it's a dog eat dog world. And for a young man like yourself who's not even 30 yet, and yet you feel as if though you're not even like I'm hopeless. I can't even do anything now. And I just 4 or 5 years ago, I was playing in college and I was doing these. And to me, a 21-year-old to a 26-year-old, you're practically the same person. Sure, you may be a little more mature, but at the same time, physically, I mean, you can't be much different than that, right? And so I can imagine that weighing on you in terms of a kind of like a perspective where, again, you just feel hopeless. You feel that all this work and progression and opportunity that you failed, and then that failure is so big that you feel like you can't come back from that failure. And so, which makes, and to me, I think a lot of people go through what you go through. It would be my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And then what ends up happening is they get to a crossroad, and then it's, hey, I'm going to go sell insurance and be a banker and get my amateur status back, and I'm just going to be a +5 handicap and whoop everyone's ass and just be a has-been. Or you go the other way where it's, hey, I'm going to keep giving this a shot. I'm going to take my medicine, take my shots. I'm going to try to get through this emotional disgust from what I'm going through, and I'm going to keep going down this road. And one of these days, something good's going to happen to me, and I'm bound and determined to make that happen. I caddy for quite a few guys. They obviously go down this road where it's, I'm a lawyer. I used to play D1 golf. I was an All-American at what so and so, and all his friends brag about him, and he's just making money, and then he's just playing golf, and like you said, he's washed up, has been. But yeah, I think I would assume in this part of your life, you sort of are in that crossroad to me, where
Yeah.
it's,
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, cause so to give everybody like a really solid picture, and especially any amateurs that are watching that like want to play professional golf, say you play at a D1 program or any college program, you're practicing at the facilities, all that's covered. Like you're there at the school. Coach, you go play for your spot in the lineup. You go play in the tournament. You don't have to worry about the logistics of how you get there, whatever. Like the coach actually has to pay to enter the team in. So all of your expenses, your flights, everything is covered. Amateur golf, if you're playing a high level amateur schedule, your parents are probably paying your way to go do all that stuff. And there's already like some upside to it, and you're tracking your ranking if you're doing it at a really high level. And then you finish the year off going back to school. So what people don't understand is just how much money you actually need on the side to go play professional tournaments. And like people, I don't know why this isn't widely available or people don't talk about it much, but like, yeah, Q school is $5,500 if you're exempt, $6,000 if you're not. And then that's for PGA Tour Q school. And then you got PGA Tour America's Q school. That's $2,500 if you want to try that just to enter. And then say you want to play 2 mini tour events a month, depending on which tour you play on, I would say average entry fee is probably around $1,000. So you need to find an extra $2,000 for 2 events, and that's not even counting all of the travel. So we're talking about like $5,000 a month on just golf, plus like including your instruction and everything. That's just getting spent on golf aside from your living expenses, which you've never had to cover because you've been living at home or at school. Some people work in jobs in college. I get that. But if you don't walk out of school and then sign a deal with someone to help cover those expenses, I see a lot of pros, and I still talk to some of them. Some of my closest buddies think that you can go and show up to a mini tour event, win, and then like somehow cash flow your way into paying for the rest of your year in golf. And like, yeah, if you win, you might get 10 grand from a mini tour event, but you're still spending, if you're playing a full schedule, you're spending that down as you go on. And your win percentage in professional golf, if it's like 5%, 10%, you're really, really talented. And that still doesn't hedge the actual expenses of professional golf to keep cash flowing it just on your own. So it requires a lot of help. from the side, and or you have to get really crafty, which I've had to get really crafty with it, or just like minimize how much you're playing and where you're playing at. And that's kind of what I've done on top of doing social media and trying to market myself. I can't disclose what account I run, but I have 250,000 followers now on both
Right on.
TikTok and Instagram. And like that was just a side art project that I was like, we're just going to make a golf page and see if we can use that to get sponsorships and work with brands that I wasn't getting just on my own page, like from being a professional golfer.
Right.
And that's kind of what I've tried to do. So I'm paving my own way. I don't think there's many guys like professional, talented professional golfers that are trying to do a hybrid situation. And I mean, it's hard. It's incredibly hard. So, and then on top of that, I work a part-time job helping kids get recruiting placement into colleges for golf. So there's a give back aspect to what I'm doing now, but like it's most people just quit. If you get to where I'm at, you just quit and go get a job because it doesn't make sense.
I agree. Well, okay, so few questions. By the way, that's Duke. What you're doing right now, what I was saying. Duke just doesn't just take anybody. I mean, y'all motherfucker. Trust me, I'm North Carolina State. We were the redheaded stepchild. Yeah, we're smart. I get it. But I had some friends from Duke, and they're next level. And by the way, before we get into this, NC State and Duke really like each other. We're okay. We'll play each other. We beat each other. We're fine. But we both hate Carolina. Like that. We just established that now. Okay. Everyone thinks
Yep.
that. Oh, we all. I'm like, no. NC State and Duke are cool. We might not hang out all the time, but we're okay. But when it comes to Carolina, we both fucking hate Carolina. Okay. Anyways, so real fast, how much money, if I'm a young amateur and I just got out of college and I played at a D1 school for 4 years, did fairly well like yourself, and I'm trying to go pro, and say I had a family friend that's sponsoring me, and we're trying to figure out how much money would I need for my first year of trying to play professional golf. How much money would you think you need? Someone wrote you a check and said, "Hey, dude, this is what do you need? You need how much?" My gut's telling me 120,000. That's just me. What are your thoughts on that? Is that too much? Too little?
Like up front to just feel comfortable going and doing that and
Yes.
figure it out yourself. Like you're gonna need a chunk saved up at the end of the year, probably 7.5 for Q school. So I would say somewhere between 15 and 20 just to be safe to start out. But if you say I'm going to sign up for G Pro and play a full schedule heading into Q school, I would say you need probably 40, 50.
Okay.
And I mean, if you're a talented person, like you'll get that up front, hopefully. A lot of people are trying to like find it under rocks and stuff, and you're going around like shaking hands with people, maybe caddying at your club, trying to like network. So it may not come in all at the same time. So that's the difficult part about it is just trying to accumulate that to go spend and not have it all be at one time. So I mean, mini tour, it's all what you want to take on. So I would say if you go full blown, like I want to play full schedule mini tour, and then I want to do PGA Tour Q school. I also want to try PGA Tour America's Q school because I don't have status coming out of college. I would say 70,
Okay.
65, 70. And then if you want to do DP, that's probably another seven that you need just on safeguard. And
Okay.
then there's also Asian Tour Q school that comes later in the year. That's the latest Q school. And then, that's another 2,500 entry fee. So probably 5 grand for that. And then you need to be able to cover your living expenses. So
Oh, we're not even talking living expenses. Oh my
no,
God.
we're just, I mean,
Oh my
like
God.
I would say safely you spend, if you do what you're supposed to do, what I think is a very full-time pro golfer, I would
Yeah.
say 65, 70 is being spent, especially if you're getting coaching.
And that's just golf. We're not talking travel, food,
Well,
necessities.
I'm counting all the expenses with it.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. That makes me feel a lot better. I was getting a little bit thinking, oh my God, we're gonna 120 is not enough. Which, okay, so that makes sense. So you would say if some guy said, "Hey, Quinn, here's an $85,000 check for the year of 2027. Go do what you got to do." That would cover the entire year for a legit schedule for somebody trying to pursue professional golf.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, that makes me feel way better because I thought it was in the hundreds. So you
No.
heard it. You and I talk about this all the time, and the problem is I can't. My dad's an electrician, man, and I played at a D3 school, so I had a lot of buddies that were real talented, and I beat them every now and then, but man, when they got pissed, they would whoop my ass, and so I kind of learned my place pretty early, and I always thought, if I got a random shot, played a Thursday and maybe get into a Monday and played the best round of my life, maybe, but I always was intrigued because I'm thinking, man, these guys that are really good, what exactly is keeping them from playing? And then I hear stories like you're saying, and then I just realize, man, dude, the amount of money that it costs just to even give yourself that runway of, hey, we can do it. And even if you don't do it, but at least you're not having to work and you can spend your 5, 6 days a week practicing when you're on your off weeks. I mean, dude, you got to think the average cost of living is right at about 80 grand for the entire nation. It's like 77,000 and some change. So
If if
to,
if you're living by yourself or with like a roommate, probably.
yeah, right. So that's what I'm saying. And it's just, it's gotten to the point where if you're having to pursue professional golf and you can do it in a more efficient manner that's not super exclusive, you're not riding in private jets and all that crap. You're doing it as affordable as you can. I mean, it's simply like getting a job that's you got to get paid like you're doing a middle class to almost upper class job. That kind of
Yeah, I mean,
situation.
you're spending what people make in a
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That sucks. I think to me, I sort of blame Tiger Woods, but it's not Tiger Woods himself that did it. It was the people around him that said, "Hey, look how popular golf is. The demand is
Hmm.
super high. So what we're going to do is we're going to jack all these prices up because we can make a lot of money off these people." Because Tiger came in and said, "Hey, I'm going to take over," and then everyone got really intrigued. Obviously, it's pretty hard not to. And so the private equity, the organizations, anything that was involved in golf saw that demand and said, well, let's jack the price up. And then now we're seeing basically the result from that is now Tiger's not longer there. And I'm not trying to say this is a generalization. I think there's still some people on the PGA Tour that probably come from more of a middle class situation. But to me, what I've noticed is your typical PGA Tour player comes from a family whose household has to make minimum 200 to 300,000 a year, usually. And so,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not saying golf is not meant for them. I just feel like we have made this window so tight and so narrow that we have really closed off developing opportunities for all the social classes. And I think that's why we're having a hard time creating this relevance within the sport, which is why sponsors like Rocket Mortgage is canceling because they wouldn't cancel if the ROI was high enough. But because the ROI is probably not what they want and they're losing money having to pony up for the purchase, well, they're not going to no longer spend that money. You have to wonder, well, why is the tournament not getting money? Well, that comes from a structural standpoint of viewership, attachment from fans. And I don't know about you, but to me, I don't watch much golf anymore. I'm not saying I don't want to, I'd love to, but compared to what Tiger was doing, when Tiger was playing in a tournament, even Phil Mickelson or a lot of these guys, it was almost religion to me. Granted, I was younger, so maybe that was a part of it. But I ask a lot of people nowadays if they watch golf, and it's not nearly as much as what it was 10, 15 years ago. And it makes me really nervous. I feel as if some part of me thinks that if we continue down this road, golf is going to turn into bowling, where we're not going to know who anyone is playing professional bowling. And bowling's, to me, what happened is bowling got really popular in the 90s. And it got really popular. And then they took all that clout that they got and then they thought, oh, well, because I have this demand, I'm not going to worry about the longevity of the sport. I'm going to try to make as much money as I can at it right now. And then what happened is because of that, they made their window real small to be a part of the tour, the PBA tour. And then it just completely destroyed the professional side of bowling. Hence why it's kind of trying to regrow itself again. And I feel with golf, we're very close to that. And that's why the PGA Tour changed to a for-profit. There's a lot of these signs, and Live Golf is no longer probably going to exist, which to me, really admired their model because they were giving out money to these young kids to have them that runway. I thought that was really cool that, hey, let's develop these young players that are good. Let's give them some severance package. And then that way they don't have to feel the stress of having to make a cut to make a paycheck to sleep somewhere at night. We can make them feel comfortable. And I feel like you said it very well, that if I don't have this overhanging stress, hey, I can then perform better. And when I can perform better, I can learn how to develop. When I can learn how to develop, then I can become the golfer I knew I can be. But if I'm having to run a TikTok account and monetize stuff like that just to make enough money to be able to afford these opportunities of something I'm passionate about, well, now you're putting stress on somebody and that's venting that development for them, right? And so it is a very interesting time in golf because to me, in my fair opinion, someone with your resume, if I had the money, it would be no question. I would say, dude, we have a guy who played all 4 years in an ACC school, and not just an ACC school, a top athletic program that has PGA Tour players that came from that same program. So, I mean, look at Jackson Coyven. To me, if you guys played, I'm sure you guys have played in the tournament, or he's a little younger than you, but those are the guys that you've beat before multiple times on some very big stages. Yet he gets really good. He has a good week. He wins the PGA Tour. And I'm thinking, dude, do you know how many guys that are just as good as him? There is thousands, right? But the dominoes all added up, and his development came at the right time. And voila, you get what you get.
Mhm.
But I think from a merit standpoint, we're missing out on a lot of those type of players and players like yourself who have this resume. And obviously, it just so happened maybe the bigger tournaments, your best game wasn't there. But we shouldn't be taking away that opportunity from you because you just didn't happen to show up at the right time. I think that's bullshit. I think what we need to do is say, hey, okay, you failed, but you can go back to here, minimal cost, and then we can start working your way back up to where you were. And then if you fail again, but you don't feel deflated, you don't feel that, oh shit, okay, I failed. Now I got to come up with 60 grand, 70 grand again just to have that chance. That sucks. I think that really sucks. So,
I mean, I will say there's hundreds of players that have stronger resumes than me and have accomplished way more in pro golf than me that are in the same exact spot I am. So
hmm,
I'm not saying I should deserve any opportunities or anything that I'm not getting right now, because there's a lot of people who deserve it before me if we're going to go on like a merit based thing. But like for instance, when you the biggest like and why I mention these players that have accomplished more is because we talk about just the expense of like trying the opportunities, like going to qualify, going to do all this.
hmm,
Um, this is one situation like people don't ever think about is say you scrape together $5,000 and you end up going to PGA Tour America's Q school and you end up getting through. So now you have full status on PGA Tour America as well. Unfortunately, like that's great, right? But unfortunately, you have to go and find money to go play these tour events now, and nobody cares about PGA Tour Americas, and that's your first stepping stone. So I just talked about mini tour events. Like you can pick and choose which ones you want to play, but if you're on PGA Tour Americas or Korn Ferry, you need to literally play where you have status. So you're going to go try to play all of them to get enough points to move up. And a full season on PGA Tour Americas is around, I've heard guys throw out 60. I know what I spent just on the Latin swing where I had status and lost my card because it was a 2 segment season. So I had 6 events in Latin America and it cost me roughly around like 17,000. And that time, like, I didn't have that. So I was really stressed. And we're traveling cross borders, customs, you know. I mean, some places are cheap in South America that we went to, but like just the fact that you're on this like tour that nobody cares about, you can't find a sponsor for it. I couldn't personally. I don't think a lot of guys have much luck finding new sponsors to go take that on. Same thing goes for guys I know that got their card on Korn Ferry through PGA Tour Q School. And if you don't, PGA Tour Q School ends December is like final stage. You have until about the end of January to go find either sign with an agency and get loaded up to go start your season because 4 events in, you're probably 20 grand down. So, and that's 4 events of the 25 you need to go play. And that's if you play well enough and don't get reshuffled out of your full status. So I know guys that, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. The younger guys usually have it a little bit easier, but like when you're approaching 30 and you're not a really big name, nobody really knows you, and you get status off of Q School, it's almost like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like for a sponsor's standpoint, you're going to see a 30-year-old and think, oh, well, he's almost done. Right. And that's where your feelings of being washed up come into play because you're nervous. These sponsors are looking for these young talents that just come out of college. And then if they see on your resume that you failed 3 or 4 times, that you're going to have less and less opportunities for a sponsor to be intrigued to even help you out. Right.
Yeah.
I
And
have, oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
I like, because I ran into that kind of roadblock of like, I know my time's ending with my current sponsorships. I went down to the PGA show, first time as a professional golfer, first time ever. But I was expecting this is a really great opportunity to get in front of some brands. And there's like every brand in golf down there. I don't know if you've been, but it's just a cesspool of golf brands. And I went in, I had, at that time, I think I had PGA Tour America status. And I talked to the marketing director of almost every brand I could get my foot in the door with. And they were just like, what tour are you playing on? And then they realized like there's no TV opportunity, like logo placement. Even if we were to sponsor you, there's just not much in it for us. So unfortunately, we can send you free clothes and stuff, and that'll be cool. But there's a huge disconnect between the people that run these golf brands and then like what it takes to be a professional golfer. And that's where I was like, whoa, because now it doesn't make any sense for me to even try if nobody cares what I'm doing.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is it's what the solution is for this. And I have one, and it might not be the most appealing solution to people, but I have one. And we had a guy in our yard, he won Canadian Q School 22, 23, and he couldn't afford to travel Canada. So he ended up not even doing it.
Yep.
And then he won the Q School. I mean, literally won the Q School. Some guy gave him enough money to do the first 2 events. He missed the cut in the first one, barely made the cut in the second one. And I think, like you said, he had 4 more left. And he came from a middle class family. His dad's a roofer, and he didn't have shit. And he even said he came back and he was caddying while that was going on. And he said, yeah, I should be up wherever he's supposed to be playing golf on the Canadian tour. And he couldn't do it because he couldn't afford it. And I think what's also interesting is I talked with Eric Flores about this. He qualified, I think, for the Korn Ferry. I'm not sure. This was now he's older than both of us. He was doing it back when the PGA Tour went straight to the PGA Tour. I think now it's the PGA Tour goes to the Korn Ferry, and then you got to do well on the Korn Ferry to get your card, right? I think is that the process now, or is
Yeah,
there?
they call it PGA Tour Q School now because they give out 5 cards at final stage. Like if you finish top 5 in all of Q School,
Yes.
you get a PGA Tour card. But like the odds of you doing that are, I
That's
mean,
ver- that's very slim, right?
it's not
Usually,
even worth talking
yes,
about.
right. Okay. And he was telling me that the Corn Ferry Tour, if you get status from them, they make you sign a piece of paper at the beginning and it says, "Hey, you are responsible for your expenses. We are not responsible for anything. If you want to show up to this tournament and you have status and you're in, well, you got to figure out a way to pay yourself." And I hate to bring him up, and I'm not saying he's whatever. This is I call it the Max Homa story. Okay, and this is why, because this is what got me when I heard about this story. I had a buddy of mine tell me about it, and I did some research on it. I thought, holy shit. Okay, so Max Homa in 2015, 2016 did well in the Corn Ferry, made some money. I think he won maybe 2 or 3 events. I think his total, I could be wrong. I'm going to ballpark it. I don't think he made more than 50 grand. As you know, winning money on the Corn Ferry, even back then, you're not making 200 grand on those things. I mean, you're lucky to have what, 60, 70 grand worth of prize money from everything you've done. Anyways, he qualifies for the PGA Tour. He does 16 tournaments and he missed 14 cuts. Made a total of $18,000 for the entire year. And you know what he does next year? He's back on the Corn Ferry, back to Q School. Okay. And I did the math on his travel for the PGA Tour. He spent minimum 125 grand. Okay. So with those 2 years combined, this dude lost 50 to $70,000. Okay. And he's back in Q School, first stage. It's like he never left. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, he's a good player. I understand that. Who in the fuck is paying this guy money? Who has that kind of money? And then this light bulb hit me in the head, and I'm thinking, how many Max Homas are out there? I mean, and I'm not saying he's not talented, but man, there is, and you know as well as anybody, there is some serious talent that's not getting that opportunity. And it just blew my mind because I'm thinking, okay, somebody spent a lot of money on this dude. I mean, probably around 150, 200 grand from 2014 till he got, and then when I think, was it 2019, 2018, 2019 is when he finally started showing up. But for 5 to 6 years, dude, he was in the red. And I mean, heavy in the red, dude. It was honestly, I don't know how he afforded it. And you're not going to find it's same with Tony Finau. I would assume it's Ryan Smith on his end. But man, some of these guys, you look at their schedules and you think, dude, who in the fuck is paying this dude's way? Because he ain't making no money. And to play in 16 PGA Tour events and only make $18,000, dude, you got to think that year alone, he lost 120 grand. Had to be. I mean, he was traveling all over the country, dude. There's nobody. I don't know. And so that's the story I always bring myself back to because I'm thinking, man, there's a lot of talented players out there. Sure, and I get Max Homa won the national tournament, NCAA, and I know obviously he's done very well. He's not your normal Joe Schmo, just some pro trying to do it, which I don't think guys like you are either. I mean, fuck, you played 4 years at Duke, dude. So that's my thing is there's so many good golfers. There's probably a good pool of about 500 would be my guess of guys like yourself within the last 8 years that have done some pretty incredible stuff and then had end up back in the same situations that they always do. And so anyway, I want you to see, or maybe you can, because you have more experience, obviously. I don't have this experience. I look from the outside in. That's why I do my show, because I want to hear from guys like you. Because if I ever made real money, especially on my app, I would go to a guy like you and say, hey, here's 20 grand. I don't want this on camera. I don't give a shit. I want you to go do something. And
Yep.
then you know what? Wear a Looper Talk hat every now and then. I don't care. But to me, I want to give people a chance because I never really got that chance. I didn't. And then I'm thinking, well, fuck, it's not about me. It's about a lot of these other people. I would hate to have tasted it and then still not get it. Like that would make me even more mad than just being like, dude, your dad's broke, buddy. You ain't got shit, right? So whatever. But I have solutions, okay? And this to me, I think is going to come across. I don't, again, maybe not for you, but I think for people who are watching, this might be a little bit intense, but I think this needs to happen. We need to stop allowing international players on our college teams. Maybe one a team. And I say this because we need to develop more American golfers. And the reason why we need to develop more American golfers is because then Americans are going to get more attached to the product, and therefore our viewership will go up. And then when our viewership goes up, the money will start to show up again. And then the mini tours and then the Korn Ferry section will start getting more money. And then once we have more of our hometown heroes that come from places that we come from, or doing things that inspire us, well, then we get more attached to the product.